What is the Bradco High Desert Report, Joe?
Well, Terry, it's the Bradco High Desert Report was probably what I call the biggest marketing accident this company has ever seen. First thing, we incorporated the company on December 4th of 1989 as Joseph W. Brady, Inc., DBA Bradco Development at the time. And years later, we figured out we weren't in the development business, we were actually in the commercial brokerage business. So we re-changed the name to the Bradco Companies. And in 1993, we had done a series of bus tours and seminars in Southern California. And I was officing over on Park Avenue, where Social Security is, the Social Security building. And we had a split office between the Keith companies and the Bradco companies. And a lady by the name of Seal Underwood, who ultimately became the town planner for the town of Apple Valley, said to me one day, she goes, "Have you ever thought about doing a newsletter?" I said, "I don't even know how to do one." So I picked up the phone and I called my friend Dr. Al Gobar, who's one of the country's most renowned real estate economists, born and raised in the Lucerne Valley, and just a person who I just can't tell you how much that he has done for me in the company, but his economic model measures the supply and demand of real estate. So because we live in an area where real estate's hot, people need to understand that there's a supply-demand side of the marketplace. So I called him, I said, "Al, have you ever done a newsletter?" And he goes, "Yeah, this is how you do it." And so we backed into it, and the first edition came out, I think it was 12 pages. I was really excited. I worked with Lee Blocker, and we had it printed, and we sent it out, and I think we sent out 10,000 copies. And back in those days, I mean, fax machines were the mode of either the fax machine or postage. That's how you sent out everything. There was no internet, there was no web, there was no email. Well, with that, in July, early August of this year, in 2013, we came with the 52nd edition. For the first couple of years, we were pretty good about doing it every 90 days. And we charged $59.95, and they got 4 quarterly copies. The problem was keeping track of people at $59.95. And the whole idea with our sponsors was to get the information out about the High Desert region. But differently than being a fluff piece, I've been very adamant and very clear with our writers that it has to be a positive, factual, economic piece to help educate people on really what's going on in the High Desert region. Do I write articles about our change in demographics or our change in welfare or our maybe increase in unemployment during bad times? No. People can read the paper and they can get that all themselves. But over a period of time, we've been blessed that we have met and dealt with 140 different agencies or individuals that represent agencies or cities or government, whether it be Caltrans or Sandbag, all 5 cities, the counties behind us, that write articles. So what I will do on a Saturday, now about every 4 months, the newsletter comes out probably 2.5 to 3 times a year, is I come on in the conference room here, and I probably have a baseball cap and my t-shirt on and a pair of shorts and a cup of coffee, and I pull out the spreadsheet, and I go through them, and I'll say, I haven't heard from Terry Kurtz over at Sandbag now for 90 days. Let me ask Terry some questions. And in the angle that we ask them are, I think I understand not only the investor, I think I understand the person that lives here, I think I understand the person that wants to invest here, I think I understand a business person's perspective. So I try to take the angle when I request this information, we send it out, and we follow up with it typically 30 to 45 days later, and then when we get it on back, we're able to publish it. So, I mean, there's been, other attempts by other people to kind of do the same thing and brand it, which is great. I mean, the whole idea with what we're doing is trying to put the High Desert in the proper light of where the economy is. Now, has the economy always been good up here? No. I've been up here since May 13th of 1988, and I've seen 2 recessions. I've seen 1 recession and 1 depression. We are now starting to move out of that what I call depression, but that depression really affected our entire country. I mean, nearly 10 million people lost jobs, and there's still people that are underwater with their houses. But so the newsletter has been a marketing accident. We now make it available online. We don't charge for it. We send it out electronically. We have about 2,000 people that get it automatically. I will say one thing, that sometimes when you run a company, you think that you know everything, and you kind of tend to learn over a period of time that you don't know everything. We have a young lady by the name of April Tyler. April works out of our corporate office in South Jordan, Utah. April is a product of Victor Valley College. She went there as long as she could and couldn't get her classes, so she transferred on up to go to school eventually at BYU. She's been with me for 4+ years. and she sends out the newsletter. So about a year ago, we tried an experiment where I like to get an attachment or a PDF of a document, and it could be 10 pages or it could be 100 pages. Sends the printer, I put a clip on it, I put it in my reading stack, and off I go. Well, April said that the world's changed and that people want bite-sized pieces rather than the big chunk all at one time. So we did it my way, and we got a tabulation of how many people opened it up and all that, and then we did it her way. Well, her way worked about 10 times better than my way in that, so now what she does, she'll take, let's say the current edition of the newsletter now is, I think, 36 pages, and there may be 20 different articles in there. So she'll send out like 2 articles a week, and then I see the responses that people send, and they're very gratifying, and it lets me know that there's more to life than just trying to make a buck. And there's, I think, I'm real big and given to my community. This is where I live. This is where I've lived for 25 years. I mean, I've known you for 25 years. So it's fun to put this thing out. We still have a copy of every one of them, and someday we'll probably donate the entire collection to the Victor Valley Museum, and they can have them. The college gets it the college has pretty much gotten it every quarter, and I think that they have a copy out there. So, again, the idea is for people to be educated. Hopefully it helps out all my competitors. I have real estate agents that will, especially in the days of old where we didn't have electronic, people would send out a marketing package. So they would take an aerial if they could get one, or a picture of a building, and they would attach something from the newsletter. And they would send it out. Well, I would get a copy of it, and I felt pretty good. As long as they keep the Bradco name on the bottom, it's fine. There's plenty of pie out there, and if I can educate people, hey, great. Some of my competitors also put out similar type products. Theirs is a little bit more economically driven. I try to really cover everything from not only what the cities do, but transportation, water, those kind of resources. People want to know if drainage channels are going to come in or a road's going to be built. So it's been fun and it's been gratifying, and it will continue as long as I'm still the president of the company.
Well, Joe, you've stated there is one item you've always provided or prided yourself in when it comes to the Bradco High Desert Report. What is your top priority?
Well, accuracy is real important. I had a case in about the 4th edition that I will not forget. Very well known, a very intense property owner from Hesperia, no longer lives here, but very intense. He used to go to the council meetings and argue with the council people all the time. And he came to my office over on Park Avenue, and he demanded to see me. And he brought in the newsletter, and he said, this information in here is absolutely wrong about this hotel coming into town. And I said, Stan, I think that you're wrong. So I went back to the file cabinet, opened up the file, brought it back. I said, here, this just came from the city of Hesperia. So the only thing I write is the opening column. I'm there to decide who can write. But the one thing we've made literally 0 mistakes, except every once in a while there's a typo error. In this particular one, we out of just respect to a very, very close friend, I think of both you and I, this edition was dedicated to Mary Scarborough. And unfortunately, I move pretty quick still at 56 years old. And the front of the current edition, it's now been changed. The printer changed it. It says this edition, ADDITO, is dedicated to Mary Scarborough. So if you take a look at yours, you probably have. But no, we really pride ourselves on not making mistakes. Occasionally there's a typo error, and when people call me and say, Joe, there's a typo error on page 32, I said, we did that intentionally. Be sure you read it.
You've partly answered this, but where do you go to get your facts? Who do you get your facts from? Because that is your main emphasis is that it is factual. I go to people that one I really trust. I'm some people think that I'm a pretty tough guy, and I might be tough. I'm tough on detail. I'm tough on ethics, morals, and values. But most importantly, I'm tough on the detail that people expect. When they come to us, they want to know that we're more than 100% spot right on. So when you go deal with a Dr. Gobars, or you go deal with Ray Wolf at Sandbag, or you deal with Greg Devereaux at the county, or you deal with Mary Jane Alonzo or Kelly Renners at the county, we get information from Supervisor Lovingood, or we get it from Keith Metzler in Victorville, or Steve Landsberger in Hesperia, or we get it from Jim Dye, United Furniture. People absolutely know that it's going to be accurate, because I'm not the one writing it.
I'm not a writer. I'm a business person that negotiates contracts. So we've really been, we've maintained that. When you do this, when people say, Joe, you're a publisher, I don't really know if I'm a publisher. I mean, I've published a lot. I've published a lot of articles and a lot of op-ed pieces, but it is an experience. All we're really doing is acting as a conduit to bringing good information together that's positive and factual that people can use. If they want negative stuff, they can pick up the news. I mean, they can either pick up paper anywhere they want in this country, or they can watch the news tonight. But we want to really be sure that we're accurate about it.
In a moment, how does the South Coast Air Quality Management District affect the high desert? For your free online subscription to the Bradco High Desert Report, register at www.thebradcocompanies.com/register. Joe, who is the target audience of the Bradco High Desert Report?
Who is your clientele?
You know, it's aimed at a cross-section of those people who've invested in the high desert region, whether they be a landowner or an industrial, retail, office building owner. It's intended for local tenants that own a business. It's intended for those that really want to know more about the high desert region. I have clients, we have readers that are retired, that care about the economy, want to know what's going on with the economy, want to be able to say to their friends, hey, I read this. I was down at the gym just on Saturday morning, and one of the members down there said, oh, yeah, Joe, I love the newsletter, and then he's retired. But you can tell he wants to know what's going on. We give it out to, every year we send it out to about 180 commercial industrial title reps from all the Southern California title companies. Why? Because they have a lot of clients out there. And in the subliminal sell is hopefully if one of them, if a title rep in Ventura is meeting with a client, the client ever says, hey, I'm thinking about doing some of there in Victorville or Barstow, the title rep might say, you know what, I know of a guy who might be able to help you. But it's really, it's a cross section of people. We've given them out to students. We've had students call us and just say, what's going on? So appraisers get it all the time from us. I speak every year. I've done it 13 years in a row to the Southern California Appraisal Institute. There's always 150 to 200 commercial appraisers. They pretty much all get it. We've sent it out to 700 appraisers of the Appraisal Institute in the past. So, it's a cross-section. And also, this is kind of interesting, and I hear this a lot, and I hear this from people in government. We will send it out. This quarter we probably won't, but next quarter we will. We'll send it out in the mail to 1,000 people that we have on our database that are government. So government could be a planning director, an associate planner at the city of Hesperia, could be a planning commissioner, a city council person, a board of supervisor, Greg Devereaux, a bunch of the department heads down in the county. And I hear from people all the time that they sometimes learn more about what's going on in their own city or their own agency from the newsletter than they may learn internally. That's obviously not good, but sometimes government's not there to. The type of information that government puts out is not the same kind of information that we put out. So when you're talking to a planner, a senior planner at Hesperia, and he's learned about things going on in Victorville, hopefully it benefits the two of them. And hopefully he can pick up the phone and call Keith Metzler, or he can call Scott, Bill Webb, or Chris Borchard. It's brought a lot of people together, and I really enjoy doing it because I think that we are a great way to connect people on up here.
The interaction between different elements is so important. You have articles on air, on water reclamation. You have an article in the 52nd edition on disabilities. But you mentioned the courts, and Tim Donnelly does, and how important that is. Is that the one thing that probably a lot of people don't fully comprehend is the interaction, the synchronicity of all of these together is vital if things are going to move forward?
Well, there have been, I think that there are those that somewhat wonder what my real ultimate motivation is for doing things like that. Do the courts have a huge impact up here? Absolutely. Because if we don't have courts, the criminals move on in here and they take on over. Air. What does air have to do with it? Well, South Coast Air Quality Management District is a gigantic bureaucracy. Right now, I don't know how many of my competitors up here understand that the South Coast Air Quality Management District is trying to limit the size of big boxes in big box industrial projects in Southern California. Huge, huge, huge deal. Now, people would say, well, Joe, if they limit it, doesn't that benefit us up here? Yeah, but you know what? We're there to educate. So, transportation corridors, those are important for everybody to know when they're going to happen. One of the things, Terry, that I've always tried to do, and there are those I think within the real estate industry that see it, and there are those maybe in the real estate industry that don't want to see it or maybe fault us for it. I want all of our competitors, me included, to be as good on my game as I can and to be as sharp on my game. We don't do residential. We have a residential operation out in Barstow with Barstow Real Estate Group. We have Alliance Management Group out there. But I want every residential agent up here to be as smart as they can. They can refer their business to their favorite commercial broker. But you know what? If they don't look smart, the clients out there then have a perception of who we are as an industry. As I'm doing business in Prescott, Arizona right now, or I'm looking at opportunities up in St. George, the one thing I find is those agents are real smart, and hopefully they're getting their information from somewhere. So whether they get it from my newsletter or one of my competitors, the whole idea is to help educate people, because I think as a society up here, we are kind of an island by ourselves. And we need to attract industry on up here. We need to attract those jobs. Those jobs become housing opportunities. They become car purchasing opportunities. They become restaurant they become country club opportunities. It's the spinoff is so.
Let's get into specific areas or markets. What is the status and the direction of the industrial market in the high desert presently?
The industrial market, I think, up here has done fairly well. I think of all three markets, if I had to rank them, I think industrial's done the best in the last 3 years. The market peaked in 2006. Some people would say it peaked in 2007. The market peaked almost concurrently in the second quarter of 2006 when the housing market really peaked. Okay, so if you follow all the numbers, you can kind of see the lines. But they're between 2006 until 2008, and then 2008 when the Lehman Brothers crash and Wall Street went down, then we really started to see. There are people out here. We have people like Bill Scott with Scott Turbine Mixer out there in Atlanta. If he could find 30 more engineers to help design his product, he would build a building twice the size. So he's having incredible success. United Furniture Industries that we did out in the base, in a Sterling Development LEED certified building, one of the nicest industrial buildings on planet Earth. Okay, between what Robert Cottam did with his not his company, but the chairman of UFI coming out here, and now Jim Dye, it's a viable operation. You've got a lot of companies up here. You got Mars Bars out there. You've got UFI. You've got Dwight and Church here in Victor. You've got Walmart. You've got you've got a lot of big box players up here. Rubbermaid has done real well. So you look at these companies that have come up here, and then the small industrial players have done well. I think that most of my competitors and I have done okay. I don't think we're getting rich off the industrial market, but that market's done well. We're proud to say that we've done the largest lease by square footage, not by value, but by square footage of any broker ever in the high desert region. We did that with CB Richard Ellis, a great company. We partnered with CB back between 2000 and 2005, and they were great to deal with. A 505,000 square foot deal is the size of the Victor Valley Mall. To give you an idea. And we see some more economic opportunities on the industrial side. And there's not a lot of industrial space available right now. There's only 3 really big buildings available, and then there's a 488,000 square foot out there on I-15 where Heilig Myers used to be. That includes 42,000 square feet of retail up front. That's listed by Jones Lang LaSalle, some old partners of mine through Colliers. We have 151,000 square feet down in Caliente, down there at 395, and we've had some pretty good play on that recently. One, you price it down at $22 a foot, people start to scratch their head and go, we got to buy it. We got 85,000 square feet out at the old Yellow Freight building. And in otherwise, that market's gotten tight. It's gotten tight, real tight in the Inland Empire. We got 400 million plus or minus square feet in the Inland Empire. You've got $1 billion down in LA County in that portion of Southern California. So industrial has been real strong in Southern California and in the Inland Empire. And we started to notice it probably 2.5, 3 years ago. There were 20 plus buildings, 500,000 square feet or more, available in the market in 2010. By the early part of 2012, they were gone. Institutional buyers came in and bought them. And these are nice, concrete, tooled-up, LEED certified type products. Gone. Companies were consolidating other DECs and put them on out here. Logistics is a huge industry in the Inland Empire. I mean, it's a huge industry. I think we employ, I believe, and I might be wrong, 50-some-odd thousand people in the logistics industry. So we see that continuing to grow on up here, and we hope that it grows. You've got some major projects and some major players up here. We've got the world's largest industrial developer that owns 350-plus acres out there in Adelanto, Prologis. And they bought out AMB, or they did a merger. I mean, so they validated that there's a great market out. You got Sterling that's just, I mean, they've completed 3.2 million square feet, about 2,000 jobs. They build an absolutely off-the-chart product. I mean, I cannot say enough for how professional dealing with Anita Tuckerman has been, Brian Parno, Mr. Cox, Dougal Hagan. I mean, they've got a great team out there. They've just got a superb team. So that, I think, has been a pretty good market. So
retail
has done well in really two places. Jess Ranch, that was developed by Mal Riley, who we're doing a project with out in Barstow, and Wine Garden Realty. They've done well. They've recently changed their broker out there. They brought in Cole Banker on that, so it was a great opportunity for them to do some work. Great product. Wine Garden is a very strong company. They're a REIT, so it's not like they don't have money, and they want to be sure that they have good quality, top tier players. So when you have a center like that, as soon as you start letting your third tier tenants in, and typically your third tier tenants aren't going to be able to pay $1.75 to $2 a square foot, so that somewhat limits them on out there. You're going to continue to be able to grow. So there's some great opportunities. Lewis Retail down there in Main and I-15, they've absolutely hit it out of the park. They've hit it out of the park. Very few people know that the buffet down there, Golden Corral, I always want to call it something else, is the #1 Golden Corral in the country now. It's huge, huge. When I go to Sedona and Prescott, I stop in the Golden Corral over in Kingman because I can get a spinach sandwich or chicken. I can make it up how I want. If I want that piece of fried chicken that I'm not supposed to have, well, I can do that. But they've absolutely hit it out of the park. They are doing numbers in that center that are way out of norm for a center of theirs. Also, Lewis is a quality company. You go to them, they want to pay a commission. They are as professional as you get. They do not negotiate rent. They might negotiate a little bit of free rent. The cost to maintain their properties, impeccable. You look at any Lewis property out there, and they're absolutely the best. So they've done real well there. I think that there's going to be a change of ownership over off of Roy Rogers, where the Home Depot is, in that In-N-Out Burger. I believe that could be announced here real soon, and that's going to help kind of give that piece of shot in the arm. You had Wells Fargo that came in with Winco, and you got a Home Depot, and now Target's going to go on in there, and the Brass Pickle moved back in, so that was a huge addition. But I think that the developer who's going to take that thing over is going to do real well. You've got the former Costco that now has a major health club coming in there, and they're going to spend up to $10 million here this year to bring that to reality. That's a huge deal. I think also when you take a look at Walmart, I mean, Walmart completed the Dunia Plaza. They've completed Main Street. They're grading. They're halfway done on Palmdale near 395. They're going to a vote in Apple Valley, and they've already started the grading. So I think the vote thing is real good. They've been approved in front of Spring Valley Lake, and that will probably eventually go through the lawsuit, issue, but probably will be. I think it'll be eventually built. And you have Barstow that has gone through the Planning Commission approval, and that's almost a done deal. When they are done, they are going to have 6 facilities with 1,161,000 square feet of new Walmarts in the marketplace. Now, to give you an idea of what that looks like, that's taking the Mall 1, That's taking the mall twice. That's 1 million feet, and add another 150,000 feet. So that's a lot of that's a lot of Walmart. Why are they doing that? Target got in the market here. Walmart got in. Actually, Target was here first in Victorville. Walmart came on in over here on Balsam and did incredibly well, but they outgrew the store. I mean, they were doing well over $100 million a year out of that store, but they were crusher size. That was 126,000 feet, and that deal's back in escrow. Somebody's actually bought that. They closed escrow in October, but so Target got in here first, and then they did Just Ranch. That was about 15 years ago, and then they did Apple Valley. And so they had 3 stores up, and then all of a sudden they were nipping at the heels of Walmart. Well, Walmart's not the #1 retailer in the world by accident, so they've taken kind of an aggressive approach and reposition. So I think it's going to have an impact. I think that but then you have other concepts that have come to the market. I think that Massage Envy came in the market and absolutely they have done incredibly well in Apple Valley. So you have other retailers that are coming in here that have done well and will continue to do well. I don't see Morton's, Ruth Chris, Fleming's coming to the market anytime soon. I see more fast food coming up. We got Hot Dog on a Stick that's come on in. Beef O'Brady's has come on in. There's a couple others that are coming to market, but I think the retail is doing okay. There's still a kind of a disconnect between what some of the landlords want and some of the secondary centers that have aged a little bit. I mean, there's still great centers where maybe the Vaughn Center. You got a great landlord. I mean, I've known him for years, but he plays a little hard sometimes. But he can do that. But he's a deal maker. We just took on the Food for Less Center between 5th and 7th. Very, very committed landlord. They bought it at the top of the market. So they want to get higher rents, but they're also realistic to understand that there's some serious competition out there for your A tenant, your B tenant, your C tenant. So they kind of want, Anton Habib that owns the Vaughns. He wants a good A/B tenant. He wants somebody to complement. He's got great leasing agent over there, Vicky Duncan with NAI. So they're looking for that good tenant, but they're also requiring, a little bit higher rent. So when you tell tenants when they come to you how this works, they might say, I don't like that guy because he's telling me how it's going to be. Well, that's the way it's going to be. These landlords haven't gotten what they've gotten by giving it away. And if it's a successful center, the traffic that's generated helps say to a tenant, you're going to pay the price. So,
office market?
Office market's kind of an interesting market. We've got about 830 buildings in the High Desert region, and a shade less than 5 million square feet of space. One of the interesting stats, and again, those that know me know that I know a lot of people in government, that I'm probably involved quite a bit, politically, but I'm not a big government guy. I mean, I don't like to see how government lives in some of these nice palatial office buildings, but the county right now has about 500,000 square feet in the High Desert region, out of almost 5 million. So they represent about 10% of our market. Offices of the past, I think, are going to be different in the future, and I think we're going to see also some changes in retail, and I'll kind of circle back to that because we're working on this project out in Barstow. But the office market has been steady. It hasn't been great. It's not a market that unless you had a tenant, if you had a county tenant or a state tenant or a Fed tenant, would you go spec an office building today? The building I'm in here, we're at Bear Valley and Industrial Boulevard. We're paying $1.05 plus a square foot inclusive. That includes our utilities. That's going to start moving on up. I mean, we're now full here, so the landlord's now saying, now that we're full, we're going to start moving that on up. We don't see big jumps, but we do in some of your premier buildings over in the Civic Center. There's still some deals that the landlords are attempting to get $1.50 a foot, more maybe like $1.25. Then you get into it. On the office side, you really see 2 types of leases. We call a modified gross lease or a full service gross lease. Actually 3: full service gross, including janitorial. You don't see a janitorial thrown in anymore. The landlords on a full service will take care of the common bathrooms in the hallways. But that's a market that still we still got some product to go, and I really think that our true vacancy in that is in the mid-teens. We report that it might be less than that based on the buildings that are audited, but I think it's closer to the mid-teens.
Land is still the best investment, or is that long?
No, I think it's kind of like the stock market. The land market is similar to the tech boom I think that we saw in the early, 2000s. The example I say to people, I took like I think it was $10,000 when that tech market went up, and I wrote up to $200,000. Boy, and I thought I was really smart. I wasn't smart. The market was smart. But try to tell yourself that when you're patting yourself on the back. Well, like everybody else, I didn't know when to get out, and I just kept doubling down and doubling down and doubling down. I finally got out when it was about 15 grand. So did I lose? Yeah. The land market is typically in 7-year increments. That's typically what the cycle has been. So right now is a time for people to take a look where they're going to buy. We've decided not to go much into the county areas anymore because it's a different type of a buyer. You don't have as much infrastructure. You have some infrastructure issues. You might have some drainage issues that you got to deal with a little bit more than you're going to see in the cities. But land values in the outlying areas. So let's say you went to the far edges of Adelanto, which is 5 miles west of Highway 395. From the last market, when it peaked in 2006, to now, it's dropped about 90%. Pretty big drop. So if you're a long-term player, and we're getting more phone calls now from the long-term players, they're now saying, okay, I want to maybe be inside the city limits. They might take a look if they're doing subdivision land, because that's the one that really took probably the hardest hit, because we're a market that's been boom bust based on a lot of housing and then stops, foreclosures, then they go back in. There's only 2 real big production builders building in the market right now. That's KB, used to be Kaufman and Broad, and D.R. Horton. There's a couple others that are starting to. You got Joe Ferry and Dave Failer with Cambridge. They're coming back, and that's kind of a barometer you want to watch. I mean, Joe's a very calculated, very smart risk taker. David's a good quality builder. I mean, they build a good home. They're building out in Apple Valley. I though think it's going to be a while before we see the type of velocity where we were pulling in 2006. I think we pulled over 7,000 permits. Last year we pulled about 280 permits. So when you look at a 95+% drop, that's pretty significant. So it's a great opportunity to get in, but it's how long do you have to wait? And the other issue you have is you have some owners that have held on and held on and held on and held on, and now they're either getting older, the property taxes are starting to get to them, they're saying to themselves, you know what, how long is it going to be on up there before I'm really going to get some money? And then sometimes they come to a guy like me, and I mean, we assess properties all the time, and we tell them, these are the values. Take it or leave it. I mean, I get paid to bring them the highest dollar I can get them, but I don't get paid to tell them sometimes what they want to hear. When you're young in your career, sometimes you're trying to tell them what they want to hear to get their business, but you're going to blow it because then once you can't produce, and they don't want to come back to you. So, getting back though into retail, I think that and I really see this. The city of Barstow about 2.5 months ago awarded Malcolm Riley, who built Jess Ranch. He built a majority of Jess Ranch. He did not build the 99-cent only. He did not build the corner buildings. He did not build the Applebee's, but he built the majority of the new stuff. He built about 750,000 square feet. Mal's kind of an interesting guy. Mal built the first 9 Walmarts in California. He's built about 15 million square feet of space. So to give you an idea, 15 million square feet of space is literally the amount of space we have in the entire high desert region, including Barstow. Okay, so the city awarded him and I a contract to help develop a specific plan for 110 acres on the intersection of I-15 and Avenue L going down to Main Street. We'll have our monthly meeting in here Wednesday, where we have the city planner, the assistant city manager, the city planner. We've hired a nationally and internationally known company to do the architectural renderings and the land plan. But we get into the type of uses that we believe will go into this project area over a course of, 3 to 10 to 15 years, and what it will look like. And the whole idea is to have some continuity, some color, some architectural design, some lighting controls, some landscaping controls. When you go to a place like a Jess Ranch, you have that nice feeling. You go to Victoria Gardens, you have that good feeling. You go to Lewis's Hesperia Marketplace, you have that nice feeling. You go to Apple Valley Marketplace with Lewis, you have that feeling. That's the way that shopping is going to go. But there's one change that now the industry is looking at that really nobody knows what's going to happen, but I think what's going to happen is this. You have Amazon, who is just, I think, a great company. I mean, I love ordering product from Amazon because they always have it. I get it on time. They have my credit card. Boom, 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 boom. They built a 1 million square foot distribution center down in San Bernardino. And what's going to happen with them and Walmart and Target and all the other major companies that are in the business, we're going to see same-day delivery. So you will see that you will go online in the next probably year or so, and you'll buy, let's say, a printer at Best Buy in Victorville. So you may not have to drive over there. That's good because you're not going to be polluting the air. You're going to buy that printer on sale. You're going to have your rebate or whatever, and they're going to say, where do you want it shipped? And you're going to say 12138 Industrial Boulevard, Suite 250. In a couple hours, a guy's going to show on up when delivery, boom. So what's going to happen in retail? And this is really it's all about the customer. So it's all about winning the customer. So how does Walmart or Costco, I mean, I'm a Costco guy, how does Best Buy earn my business when, Jeff Bezos with Amazon has it? Costco has it. Because I can order something and I know something's not right, they're going to take care of it. That's what's going to happen. So what we don't know is going to happen is Best Buy might have a 35,000 square foot footprint that they typically have. So anytime you drive around the country, you see a Best Buy, they kind of look the same, right? Well, they have a footprint. They know exactly how big it's going to be, how wide, how deep, and all. So the question is now, will they still have the same size store, but they're going to have a smaller portion of retail, you can still go touch and feel it, and then a larger area in the back for that truck to be able to pick it up and deliver it to you. So that's what's going to happen. So getting back to Barstow, it's been fun working, with Mel Riley. I mean, it's a privilege. It's great to have him as a partner. But the industry is trying to determine what effect is this going to have on the shopping of the future. So I think the days of the traditional centers will change. I think that when we saw what happened with Victoria Gardens and the absolute success of the outdoor type regional mall, that set the stage. So as you go across the country, everybody else is building the outdoor regional mall. So today, I think you're going to see a change. And in 5 years, Terry, it's going to be interesting to see, because I think that our shopping habits may change. Point and click is going to be a lot more.
In a moment, a High Desert Economic Development Council, air quality, wastewater reclamation, disabilities regulations, and the impact courts have on local development included in the 52nd edition of the Bradco High Desert Report.
Joe, tell me about what is involved with formation of a High Desert Economic Development Council.
Well, let me take you kind of back in time. If you had asked me in 1987 when I was in Santa Barbara if I knew anything about an economic development council, I would have said no. One, in Santa Barbara, you don't promote to bring industry to, you promote to bring rich people to Santa Barbara, so that's kind of why I moved out. I got over here in May of 1988, soon met a lady who forever I will be indebted to, Mary Scarpa, who recently passed away. And I met a friend of mine, Paul Soldano. Paul ended up doing some consulting work for the city of Atlanta, and he did work for the college. And we became friends. And then Brad Orchard got involved, and just a whole bunch of people. I mean, the Economic Council movement was how Robert Lovingood and I became such good friends. We were standing behind the soup kitchen downtown one day at the Samaritan's Helping Hand, and we were taking a break. Back then I smoked, and we were talking about if you can create enough jobs, you can pave your curbs and gutters in gold. It's all about job creation. Jobs. So I was a young 32-year-old with a whole lot of energy and not a whole lot of brains. Well, there was a group called the Victor Valley Community Improvement Council that was meeting at Apple Valley Country Club, and Midge Baltimore, who's still around, and her late husband Jack, and Mary Scarpa, Tom Graining, Tom Dorshak. I mean, they're all members. I showed up one day, kind of guns blazing, and said, "Hey, I'm the new guy in town, and what are you guys doing?" Well, they said that what they were trying to do is they were trying to promote the High Desert region. Very similar. I mean, that's how literally High Desert Opportunity got off the ground 30 years ago. Tom Green, that worked with us until the day that he passed, he was one of the founders with Marcia Tarosi and Bill Porter. I mean, these are people that set the stage for me and a lot of my competitors. And I think sometimes we kind of forget who these people were. The George Frys and the Ben Hinkles and the Ty Tyrones, blah, blah, blah. So it became pretty clear in '88. I got going in 1989. And then on December 28th of 1988, the Air Force notified the Valley that we were going to close George Air Force Base. I was quickly interviewed, did one of my first interviews up here on TV, Dick Dorwald. God bless Dick. Dick, if you're watching, I hope you're having a great day. So we talked about what do you have to do. Well, it became pretty clear that you needed to bring the cities together. And again, back then, we had fax machines. We didn't have the internet. If you want to get somebody to a meeting, you had to send them a letter, or you had to pick up the phone. Okay, or you had to have a fax. We actually had a fax that could send out 100 at one time, kind of pre-programmed.
Landline phone.
It was like the old pick up the phone and call. So with the help of Brad Orchard and Paul Saldana and Loving Good and just a whole bunch, Tony Freoff, we created what was called the Mojave. I think it was called the Mojave River Regional Board of Trade. And then it went to the Mojave Regional Economic Development Council after a couple of years. And Mary was absolutely totally behind it. She was a fireball. She was government, but she said, we got to partner with the private sector. And again, the whole idea was to promote the High Desert region collectively. Well, the market was in a free fall, and there was a huge fight over George Air Force Base. You remember the attorneys are going at it. So there was some territorial issues. And I still believed, as I do today, that 1 + 1 = 3. And whether you like somebody or not, if they can do something to better your community where you live, work, and play, then why not do it? So with the help of Ken Hobbs, God bless Ken, he's down in Rancho Mirage today, he kind of semi-retired. I hammered on him, and I said, Ken, he was the assistant city manager under Jim Cox. And I said, we have got to bring the cities together in the county, so we finally did. He dug out 28 inches of snow one morning to keep an appointment with me when I was on Park Avenue, because he knew that we kind of outlined this whole thing, kind of back on up. When they had the improvement council that Tom Green and those guys were involved in, and we had the young people on over here, the one commonality we had was Mary Scarpa. And Mary was not one to say, don't bring your ideas to the table. So I called Tom Graining up and I said, Tom, meet me at Spring Valley Lake one night. And the whole idea was to buy him a drink or two and get him to see my way, and hopefully we would kind of merge. We hadn't even ordered the drink. When we shook hands and said, we need to do this together. And Tom was one of those very unselfish people that saw the big picture. He knew that his time was probably limited. He still had a good 10 plus years, but that we needed to do this together. So that helped create the regional council, which ultimately helped us prepare to what we created was High Desert Regional Economic Development Authority. We had all the cities in the county. We had, I think, about a $200,000 a year budget. We hired Ron Rector, who had retired from Edison, to become our executive director. We hired Lisa Lemire, who was really my first associate, who's now gone on to just do great things over at the city of Hesperia. And she ran the office, and Ron was out there beating the streets. We had an active board. And then, politics got in the way. And the issue was who was putting in the money, and you had some issue about, cities felt that they should control it. And there were people like me that said, yeah, you should have a big voice, but you're using my money. You're using taxpayer money. So don't sit there and dictate to me as a government person. Come to us as a partner and say, we're generating property taxes, we're generating good sales taxes. Let's put $25,000 or $50,000 in the pot here so we could go out and market. people wondered what my personal motivation was, because they thought, well, Joe's doing this because he wants to get real estate deals. One of the first things that we did was we had a real estate policy that no board of directors could do a deal. All the deals that Ron did, even to the day that we closed it up, we never knew. They were all coded. Project Green or Project this number or whatever. The whole idea was, if a company comes in the marketplace and they do something, it creates jobs, and those jobs translate into housing, and those housing starts translating into new cars, and those new cars, people go have lunch at Chateau Chang, and they go out and have dinner at Applebee's. I mean, it's a spiral effect. Well, then but what happens when a market's good and the economy's good, people say, we don't need to go out and promote. I mean, we're busy enough. And that's kind of what happened. So as the market started to increase and get good, unfortunately, we went to dissolve it. And it was in, I'm going off of memory, 2002, 2003, that it got dissolved. There were ironic, there were 4 people on the dissolution committee. I kind of cut the deal from the private sector with Ken Hobbs. And I remember sitting at First American Title in their conference room, and we had 28 people sitting at the table. It was so cool. It was like 14 people in the private sector, 14 in the governmental sector. Marcia Troisi sat at the end of the table. I will never forget as long as I live. And I was humbled, because it wasn't me, it wasn't Marcia, it wasn't Robert, it wasn't Jim Cox. The fact was that we needed to do this together. And it worked for a period of time, and then unfortunately it died. And when we boxed it up, and there was some infighting, and one of the cities did not feel that they really got their fair share, or one of the towns didn't feel they got their fair share, it died a sad death. The pallbearers were Bill Postmas, Janice Olson, I think Mike Page, I think Mike was involved, and myself. And so we boxed it up. Lisa put all the stuff in storage. Some of it has been, I think, tossed. I did keep pretty good records. It was kind of a big thing. So, years have gone by. The economy did really well. We all did really well. And then we've gone into a depression. This is what I would call my last run to see an economic council take off. So through the challenge of a conversation I had in May of 2012 with town manager Frank Robinson in the town of Apple Valley, we went out and had breakfast, and he said to me, I understand you know a little bit about economic development. I said, yeah, I've kind of been there, done that. I've rattled a couple of cages. And he said he had experience from down in Texas and a community outside the Woodlands. He said, would you be willing to help put this thing together? I said, no, I really don't have any time. And I really didn't really want to do it. But, the kind of the guilt thing and the fact that I've always said I would like to leave here someday knowing that I made my community a better place to live, work, or play. I said to him, yeah, I'll give it a shot. So I came back here and I ordered some data. And I looked at CoStar data, and we buy CoStar data. It gives us pretty much everything we need. And about 9,000 tenants. And then I looked and I said, okay, Chambers, you remove all the dupes, got about 1,500. VIPs about 1,000. Building owners about 4,000. So over a course of about 6 months, I'd come in here on a Saturday or Sunday and spend an hour or two, kind of highlight, send the stuff up to April. She would then database. And before we knew it, we had about 1,050 stakeholders. I really feel people that are stakeholders. Now, people would say, well, if you deal with Joe, they've got to be somebody that's got a lot of power and money. Absolutely has nothing to do with it. Terry, you're a stakeholder here. You've been here a long period of time. So we would put you in video or media because you help communicate the message out. So we had different categories. We had aerospace, we had manufacturing, we had solar, we had real estate. Out of the real estate, we had 2 categories. Commercial real estate. So who in the commercial should be there? Don Brown with Cole Banker, Jason Lamoureux with Don Brown with Lean Associates and Jason Lamoureux, and John Conley with CPI, and Mike Rademacher with MGR, and Jim Phillips, and you go down the line. Those people need to be there. And then on the residential side, you would have Hannah Knapp with Century 21 and Jim Phillips again, or J.D. Phillips with Century 21, Carol Ewell with Shear. So you went through the list and said, okay, whether I like anybody on here, they're players, and they need to be at the table. The challenge comes down to how do you create it, who runs it, who's going to pay for it. And so we floated out the idea. Actually, David Griner and I sat on in here one day with Michelle Spears probably 5 months ago, and we batted the idea. He wants to do a regional chamber of commerce. It's a great idea. There's 11 chambers out here, and we've stopped paying dues to a lot of them because I'm out promoting the high desert through the Bradco High Desert Report and just the things I do. But they have a great idea in trying to pull all the chambers together, but really the regional concept, and I think it'd be a great opportunity for you to sit down and talk to them. So up until then, I was real fired up. We were still moving forward. We cleaned up the list, and quite candidly, we haven't pushed it because I think that there needs to be some more impetus. People would say, well, this is a Joe Brady thing, and after a while, you kind of say to yourself, we need to come together. High Desert has some pretty stiff challenges. We have some high welfare rates, high EBT and food stamp deals. We have very high unemployment. We're not creating jobs. So I think that there'll come a point where government will say, and the private sector will say, and maybe it's some other people within the private sector will say, let's go create something to go market the region. And that's what we need to do. The idea that Brad Mitzelfeld helped facilitate with the 5 cities and ICSC, the International Council of Shopping Centers, so that they're all out there and they're promoting the region, benefits the region. Sometimes we become too territorial. It's all about, the me, the we, whatever. If a company moves into Apple Valley, some of their people are gonna live in Atlanta or Pinion Hills or Wrightwood or Barstow or whatever. So I think the day will come that the city managers will come together. We have 5 exceptional city managers today. Absolutely. We have 5 great councils. You might have a member. I really can only think of one member on one city council that I wouldn't want to have as my partner, but the balance of them, I think all the city councils have done well. The Board of Supervisors is hitting it out of the park. Just last week, Terry, I'm talking to a very senior director at the county, very senior. He's been there 30 years, and he said something to me about Loving Good because he knows that Robert and I are close friends. And he said, boy, Robert's really doing a great job. And I said, yeah, he is. And he said to me, he goes, Joe, off the record, he goes, I've been here 30 years. I've seen everything. I've seen every antic. I've seen Lowick. I've seen Jerry Ease. I've seen the whole bunch of corruption. He said, I have never seen the Board of Supervisors work so well together as they are now. So you take 5 supervisors, some great department heads. Kelly Renders has just taken over economic development. Mary Jane has now moved to financial, and she's a financial genius. You take the 5 economic development managers on that here. You got Jim Hart out in Atlanta. You got Steve Landsberger, Keith Metzler, Oliver Chi. You've got some great talent out here. Eventually, they'll come together. Maybe they'll do it on their own volition, and the list of 1,050 people that we put together will market the newsletter too, and they'll become better informed, and they'll start their own conversation. But yeah, I really do think, Terry, that it's something that the Valley needs to do. I think they're making a huge mistake by not doing it. But there comes a point where between what goes on at Victor Valley College and my commitment there, that I really need to see that commitment through. And there's only so many hours in the day, and you just got to do the best you can for those things that you're involved with.
To receive your free online subscription to the Bradco High Desert Report, register today at www.thebradcocompanies.com/register. The Bradco High Desert Report congratulates the city of Hesperia on its silver anniversary of cityhood. Since incorporation in 1988, the population of Hesperia has more than doubled from 43,400 then to over 91,000 today. Today's City Hall provides a final destination for administering the duties and businesses of the city. City Hall was first located in a rented space on the corner of 7th Avenue and Main Street, then in Eagle Plaza, before its permanent home in the Civic Plaza, where it's surrounded by the Jerry Lewis County Building, new police station and library, and the Civic Plaza Park. The Civic Plaza's newest addition, Cinema West Movie Theater, celebrated its grand opening in December of last year. A number of notable watermarks are occurring during this 25th anniversary year, including completion of the Ranchero
narrow underpass. This represents Phase 1 of the Rancho Corridor project, with the June 29th ribbon cutting and grand opening providing a second east-to-west crosstown access under the BNSF railroad tracks. Heaviest traffic on Main Street has been alleviated. Grand opening here include the Walmart Super corner of Main Street, Candido Avenue, the new Blue Ribbon Stater Brothers Market in Midtown, Maine, Holy Restaurant, Five Guys Burgers and Fries, hot dog on a in the High Desert Gateway Shopping Center, Super Target, Ross, and Marshall's continue to perform among the top 25 tax producers in the city. The Gateway Mall, Golden Corral is reportedly the Golden Corral in the nation. The buffet restaurant chain. The city of Hesperia is aggressively marketing industrial area around its recently completed $5 billion rail spur. The spur creates access for 200 acres property, with the potential of 400 jobs over the next 5 years. The city of Hesperia purchased the Hesperia Golf Course back in 2010, the driving force procurement of water rights for residents. Last year, the city purchased nearly 6,000 water rights from the former owner of the Rancho development. This purchase by the city is the largest purchase of water rights at one time in the history of the nation. At a cost of $25 million, these water allow the city to own at least 6,800 acre-feet of water for Hesperia businesses. As for that Rancho Corridor project, construction is underway on $60 million Ranchero interchange, which broke ground in January. This interchange includes a 7-lane freeway with on-ramps and off-ramps, and other Hesperia is the second largest. It's 91,000 residents. Behind that, of Victorville, 17,000. Is third and newest high school, Oak Hills, continues to build on its promising athletic endeavors, winning the Division V championship this spring. A lot in Hesperia, the silver anniversary of cityhood. Bradco High Desert Report sponsors Bank, Cooley, Desert Valley Hospital, Engineering, Services, Gizmo IT, ISU RMAC Insurance, Mojave Desert Air Quality Agency, County Air Quality Southwest Bernardino, One Stop City of Hesperia, One Stop City of Hesperia Center. Medical Center. 52nd Medical Center. The Bradco High Desert Report. Economic Recovery Report. Slowly Report. Alfred J. Gobar. Goes by Loving Good. First State Senator. 3rd District Assessor M. Donnelly. San Bernardino County Assessor Dennis Strager. M. Donnelly. Transportation. Hester. Mojave Agency. Bill Grulich. Lisa Lemire, Economic Development Management, Carlos Rodriguez, Aldi Mesa Building Industry Association, Robert Martinez, Certified Access, Vicky, Grassroots Organization, Violet Robert, Community Violet Robert, an Education Manager, updates from an Education Manager, and Victorville.
and Victorville 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 and